The purpose of this video is to give you an introduction to our first lab, Marine Geography. Now this is found in our Week 1 module, and you will click through here, and you see our lab is available in two different formats, Microsoft Word or PDF. Now to complete this lab, you have two options. If you have a printer, you're welcome to print that out, complete it by hand, and then take photos or scan and submit those through the Submit Assignment button. Please make sure these are all combined into one document, otherwise it is nearly impossible to grade, and these apps are really good and helpful to combine all those images into one document. Your other option is to just edit the document on your computer through your word processor and your graphics editor. And once you complete the assignment, you save it and submit it here. Okay, let's look at the lab itself. So here's what our lab looks like. And this first section is going to be dealing with something called latitude and longitude. And there are a couple videos to watch that will give you an introduction. I'm going to give you my own brief introduction. And essentially, latitude and longitude is a coordinate system, meaning it helps us pinpoint a place on Earth's surface. Here at the bottom, this is what it looks like written out. So our first component, latitude, is telling us how far north and south a spot is from the equator. And the equator is this red line that runs across the middle of Earth. And so if the numbers are positive, it means it's going to be north of the equator. It goes all the way up to positive 90. If the numbers are negative, or there's an S at the end here, it goes all the way down to negative 90. Now our longitude, a little bit different, is measurement east or west of this line called the prime meridian. And the prime meridian is just an arbitrary line. It runs through Greenwich, London, but we measure all our longitude from it. And so that's going to run from from 0 to positive 180 going to the east, and 0 to negative 180 going to the west. So in our area, all of our longitudes are going to be negative. That's the negative sign here. And a little bit redundant, but just so we're to be sure, we have a W indicating it's to the west. So our latitude and longitudes are broken up into degrees, and then those are further broken up into something called minutes. And so there are 60 minutes in a degree, and that's further broken up into seconds, 60 seconds in a minute. Now these don't really have anything to do with time, but we just borrowed the terms and the units. And the reason we break it down even farther is because a degree is a pretty large area of Earth, and so we want to be a little more precise. So if we were given this latitude and longitude, to find it on the map, we would start at 0, and we would go up until we get to 45 degrees, and then a little bit more because we're at 26 seconds there. And every point along this line that I'm going back and forth on the cursor is about 45 degrees, 26 minutes, 44 seconds. Likewise, if we want to find our longitude, we start at 0 and we go over to 120, 122, and then we would follow that line down, and every line along where I'm dragging the cursor is along that same longitude. And where those lines intersect, right here in the Pacific Northwest, this is the spot that these coordinates are indicating. And this is actually the coordinates for Sylvania, where we would be meeting if we weren't all stuck at home. Okay, so this is going to get you through this part 1 and some of the stuff in part 2. And in part 2, we are going to start looking at a map that we are going to see a lot in this class. So you click here to access that map, the PDF online, and it looks like this. So the first thing you'll notice that there is a lot going on in this map, but we'll go over some of the components to it. Starting with the title, Geologic Map of the Ocean Floor off Oregon and the adjacent continental margin. So what we're actually looking at, the majority of the map is the ocean floor. The continent, or the continental margin, which just means the edge of the continent near the ocean, is this section over here. And so this is the boundary in between. So the actual coastline, if we zoom in, is going to be this kind of weird Hatcher blue marks right along there. And you can see some familiar landmarks like Tillamook Bay right there. Okay, so most of this is going to be the ocean. And so if we zoom out a bit, this whole area, this is our map, meaning we are looking at it from a bird's eye view. Then at the bottom we have something called a cross-section or a profile. While the map is from a bird's eye view, the profile is going to be from a side view. So this is a little bit like if you were to cut into a layer cake and lift it up and see what it looked at from the side. It's almost as if we cut into the earth and lifted it up and see what it looks like from the side. And so you can see the continent over here and then our ocean floor over here. Another thing to note is that we have a scale in the bottom right corner letting us know how big in real life these areas are. And so the numerical scale is kind of useless when you're zooming in and zooming out because it's immediately inaccurate. But our graphic scale, this is what we're going to use to measure distance. And so you can see this distance from 0 to 40 is 40 miles. So you can use this to estimate distances on the map. So let's get back to our latitude and longitude. And you can see that we have latitude and longitude marked on this map as well. And since we're looking much more closely at an area, you can see that the space between the degrees are much higher. So here are our lines of latitude, or our latitude measurement running up and down the left side of the map. And if we scroll down, we can see that we have lines of longitude going across the bottom. Now, even though the minutes aren't marked on here, you can see that they have these lines indicating, each one indicating 10 degrees. And so there's 6 of them making up that 1 degree of latitude. If you follow these lines across the map, it'll help you pinpoint. And if you're getting a little bit confused, which ones are lines of latitude, which ones are lines of longitude, remember our lines of latitude are kind of like a ladder. And so you could climb up these lines like rungs of a ladder going north and south. And that might help you remember which one is which. Okay, so all these colors on the map, these represent the different earth materials, or like the rocks and sediment, that make up the floor of the ocean and the surface of the continent. And so the key over here is going to give you a description of what each color represents. That is something that we are going to go into a lot more in a couple weeks when we look at earth materials, but just wanted to let you know what these are. Okay, so you're going to use this map to answer most of the questions on this lab, and a lot of these are designed to just get you oriented with the map. Then in part 2, you are going to use the map that you were just looking at and some of your knowledge from the textbook, and you are going to label these features on the map below. And so this is looking at the same area as our big map. And so you're going to be flipping back and forth, looking where the features are on here. For instance, the continental shelf is labeled right here. And you're going to label it right here on the light colored portion, continental shelf. Then you are going to go to the next page and you're going to label those same features on these 3 different profiles. And why are there 3, you ask? Because they are from 3 different latitudes. So the first one is going across the top, next one is a little bit farther down, and the last one is going across the bottom. So you can find these latitudes on your big map and see what features are there. Note that this blue line represents the surface of the ocean or sea level, and then you have the floor of the ocean indicated with the black line, and that pops up over and gives you the surface of the Earth on the continent. Then finally, you have a couple follow-up questions regarding the work you did on your profiles. Okay, so hopefully this helps you get started on this week's lab. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help the best I can, even though I'm not in the classroom with you.